Talk about healthcare. It seems like we're in a moment now where the Democrats would like to reform the Affordable Care Act, and the Republicans are kind of admitting they're not trying to repeal it. They want to fix it, to reform it, whatever word you want to use. And it seems, to be realistic, we're not going to get some comprehensive, global, massive piece of legislation. But there's some smaller fixes that need to be done to make the system work better, to make more affordable for those who are covered by it. Big challenge, because that's going to require bicameral, bipartisan cooperation. And for the Democrats, that means cooperating with Donald Trump. And for the House Republicans, that means cooperating with Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. So, Ashley, you've got great experience in these dynamics. If the president said, Ashley, I want to collaborate with you to get a bipartisan, bicameral, medium-sized healthcare bill done, what would be the building blocks? Not in terms of the policy, but in terms of the process to get people comfortable trusting each other to make that happen?
Well, I mean, I think where you have to start is get a common boogeyman. I think that's what really creates, or a common problem that we all agree needs to be solved. But a common boogeyman always sort of brings the two parties together. And I think the president sort of laid it out. He talked about the insurance companies. When I was on one of your other shows, an expert said, we don't have a healthcare problem. We've got an insurance company problem. And I think that's an opportunity that Democrats should take the president up on. I think, and I was talking to Chuck Schumer about this not too long ago. I think my concern is that the Republicans' messaging around ACA has become crystallized. I mean, in a way that I've never seen it before. Plus, we've never had to defend ACA from a defensive posture. So my point is Democrats should not fall into sort of our typical pattern, which is to defend ACA and say, what people are experiencing is not true, or point the finger and say it's really the Republicans' fault. I think we should take the president up on his offer to address the insurance companies. I mean, I think that's something that everybody, the general public, could agree with and get behind. But the real question is not whether we want to actually fix this problem. For me, it gets back to a little bit of what Amber said. Going into the midterm, everyone's trying to gin up their base. And so, MAGA Republicans love nothing more than to hate Obama. So the question is whether or not they want to fix anything related to Obamacare, because then that would neutralize it as a weapon going into the midterm election. So that's my real concern. But my advice to my party is don't fight the Republicans on this. Go with them. If they want to address insurance companies, let's go along with that path and see if we can make this fix happen.
Now, would you throw the pharmaceutical companies in there too? They're a pretty good villain as well.
I mean, yes, absolutely. I mean, definitely. I mean, especially if you could get Republicans on board, which seems like that's possible. But yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, Amber, you think that's a plausible path to say we're going to team up against big pharma and big insurance?
To an extent. I mean, there's the new right, as we call it, which has this more populist bent, which is interested in rooting out, corporate cronyism and the idea that big corporations get a pass on all of their bad behavior because they're raising the GDP. So you see that among people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, like Josh Hawley. So I think there is a potential pact to be made there, but there is still sort of this lingering, aggressively Puritan free market part of the Republican Party that will be more difficult to get on board. I mean, the Republicans' key issue on healthcare has always been that they don't have a comprehensive plan on what they want to do with it, right? And this is going back to the first Trump administration, even outside of when they were trying to get rid of Obamacare or do the real repeal and replace. There was a group of think tanks, conservative think tanks in the DC area who decided to team up and collaborate on trying to get a comprehensive healthcare reform package together for the president to use. And that sort of disappeared after 2018, 2019. Nobody talked about it anymore. And now you have Republicans split on either extending the subsidies from Obamacare, getting rid of them, replacing it entirely. There's just not a clear vision from the party about what to do about it. I do think I'll disagree with Ashley a little bit on this one point about Obama and Obamacare kind of being the boogeyman, because and the reason I say that is because a lot of the people who flipped from blue to red to vote for Donald Trump in 2016 were those union members. Their healthcare was grandfathered in under Obamacare. So the people that are really impacted by this that are part of the Republican base are basically non-union, lower middle class folks, which is a sort of smaller, maybe less important piece of the party in terms of Trump's base. Obviously still matters, but I don't think Obamacare is the looming boogeyman that it really was maybe like 10, 15 years ago for the GOP.
No, my point is that Obama is, and you attach Obamacare to it. I mean, people, his base
Oh yeah, I don't agree with that either.
Well, I mean, I think it bears out in the numbers. I mean, maybe to your point about those who switch from blue to red, that doesn't apply to them, but that's not who I'm talking about in terms of needing to agitate and aggravate your base. But if you just mention Obama's name in any of these rooms, these people get fired up and worked up. So it's going to be interesting to see how this thing shakes out. But Obama definitely is still a great mobilizing tool, as much as Trump is for us, for them.
Yeah. I want to talk about speech and responsibility of people in public life. The president was asked the other day about Tucker Carlson and about Nick Fuentes, and he basically said Tucker can book whoever he wants on his show, and then they can come on, and then the public can decide, do they want to be for Nick Fuentes? Do they want to denounce him? But he didn't denounce either of them. Now, there are plenty of people, everybody in public life. The Democrats aren't called on as often by the press to denounce irresponsible things said on the left. But I'm wondering, first of all, do you believe that there's a bright line between irresponsible and out of bounds? In other words, does Nick Fuentes hold views and espouse views that are so out of bounds that there's a greater obligation to denounce him, or is speech just speech? Either of you want to take that on?
Amber, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I have complicated feelings about this. So I will say that I think looking back at Nick Fuentes' start and his rise to become this really popular figure for young men makes clear that the deplatforming route did not work. He was really summarily excommunicated from the conservative movement back in 2015, 2016, and still built a massive platform, even while being banned from places like YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, etc. And so I think there's a worthy goal in trying to actually understand why this movement is happening, why he's amassing so much popularity. And I do think a lot of the criticism of Tucker comes from people who did not watch the entire interview. There was actually significant pushback on his most heinous views, which is this idea of blaming issues with the Israeli lobby in the US or the Israel government on Jews writ large. And Tucker approached that from a Christian perspective, trying to appeal to the fact that Nick Fuentes is himself a Catholic. And I think people were more upset by the tone in that Tucker wasn't screaming at him or agitated. I don't think that Republicans feel at this point as well that, and you alluded to this, Mark, that they've been given a fair shake in terms of this condemnation ritual that they're expected to participate in. And a lot of them have decided to just opt out. Like, well, we don't see the same action happening on the left. We don't see the media demanding that people denounce Democrats who engage in misconduct or say things that are considered out of bounds. And so we don't feel like we have to participate in that either. It's basically like a suicide of our own party if we do. Right. And so we're just going to step away.
Yeah, very, very well said. And there's no doubt that I think that characterizes, for instance, what the vice president feels, although he has on occasion denounced. Ashley, do you see a bright line between, pro-Nazi sentiments versus, rude things or things that are just short of that? Or is it all just speech and you either condemn it or you don't?
Well, personally, I definitely see a bright line between the two. I think, there is speech that, the problem I have is with speech that that promotes, antagonizes, engenders violence and perpetuates a system that is set up to otherize people, to discriminate against people, to continue to foster a level of hate within our country. The reason why is because I'm affected by it every day of my life.
Of course.
there's no doubts about it. I mean, I had one of my neighbors when I first moved into my house knock on my door and say, this used to be a great neighborhood. And by the way, you can't get a house under $750,000 in my neighborhood. It used to be a great neighborhood until they started to put up these Black Lives Matter signs. So, people feel threatened. There's consequence to speech. And so that's where I sort of draw the line, which is people process these things in different ways, and it creates problems for the very fabric of our nation, who we say we are as a nation, all of these systems that run our country. And I'm not surprised at what Donald Trump said. I mean, given his own history, I mean, you could go back down to his announcement when he came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists. So, this is absolutely no surprise, but it's disheartening. It's scary. It's sad. It makes people like me incredibly emotional, and question, where is our place in this nation, especially when you have a president that really is fomenting and not denouncing such hateful speech. And again, I think, you ask people, there's a clear correlation between even the events that have been perpetuated against our president, his two attempts, right? I mean, if you go and look at the source of those particular problems there, it's because people are being inundated with all of this hate speech that is just counterproductive to who we are as a nation. So it's scary, scary, dark times, and especially when you have a president who doesn't stand up against this stuff.
All right. Holiday season approaches, and I don't want to end on scary, dark times necessarily, even though I take your point and really touched by the way you described your neighborhood. That's a horrible thing to have to deal with. I'm sorry you do. Not surprised, unfortunately. What's going right in America? What's something you'd like to single out that's currently going right and gives you optimism and hope? Amber?
This is going to be controversial. I think the mass deportations are going really well. I'm happy that the Trump administration is taking that seriously. On the flip side, his comments this week and last week about the H-1B visas and how we don't have talented people in America, I thought was a slap in the face to American workers and so many people who have left the workforce entirely because they can't find good work. So far, I think the numbers on the mass deportations have been good and in line with what was promised on the campaign trail.
Ashley, what's something you see optimistic in the country right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the president's in an all-out retreat. You look at Epstein, healthcare, tariffs, redistricting. Hopefully he's reading the tea leaves. Hopefully there'll be a recalibration to a more reasonable posture, one that's more unifying, one that's more forward-looking for the nation, one that's rooted in a vision of us progressing as a nation and being able to compete in the world. So that's what I find very encouraging, is that the president is really listening, feels like he could be listening to the American people, because Tuesday was an all-out rejection. His voters are feeling betrayed. He's underwater on every issue, 63% disapproval on the economy. I mean, it's the numbers are in positions that I've never even seen before. So that's what I find encouraging, is that it feels like he might be on the precipice of a recalibration.
Ask yourself right now, are you being lied to? Wall Street insists the only way to have enough money to retire is to put your whole life savings into a 401k or an IRA and then roll the dice with it into the Wall Street casino. But if that were true, why do studies show the average American following that advice will outlive their savings by a staggering 10 years? And even the man who invented the 401k says it's a monster that should be destroyed. It's time to get the truth and discover a better way to grow and protect your money. Bank on Yourself is the proven retirement plan alternative banks and Wall Street desperately hope you never hear about. It gives you guaranteed predictable growth in retirement income, tax-free retirement income, built-in inflation protection, and much deserved and needed peace of mind. You can get a free report that reveals to you how you can bank on yourself and enjoy tax-free retirement income, guaranteed growth, and control your own money. Just go to bankonyourself.com/Mark to get your free report. Again, that's bankonyourself.com/Mark. One last time, bankonyourself.com/Mark.